Usher in the new year, families across China celebrate a preliminary Eve through a host of cooking and cleaning traditions. A show of force, Iran unveils a new homemade fighter bomber jet capable of flying at low altitudes and evading radar. Paying homage, Cambodians gather in the capital Phnom Penh ahead of the cremation of the late king Norodom Sihanouk. And we take you to New Orleans, which hosts the Super Bowl on Sunday for the first time since Hurricane Katrina hit the region 8 years ago. Hello there, welcome to News Hour on CCTV News. Live from Beijing, I'm Pan Deng. Sunday is the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month, which Chinese call Xiaonian or preliminary eve. On this day, people used to offer sacrifices to the kitchen god. Now, most families make delicious food to enjoy. In some parts of China, people clean inside and outside their homes, as well as their clothes. People also maintain a tradition of cutting their hair on this day. After this eve, people begin preparing for the Chinese New Year. This is called seeing the New Year in. They begin decorating their newly cleaned homes to create an atmosphere of festivity. Chinese characteristics or Chinese gods are hung on doors before everybody goes out to buy things for the new year. Meanwhile, people across China are busy heading home for the Spring Festival. For more on the travel rush, let's cross live to our correspondent Jia in Beijing. Hello Jia, tell us your exact location. And we know that snow has returned to Beijing Sunday morning. Is it having any effect on people's travel plans?
Well, indeed, today there is heavy snow in Beijing, but so far there's no report of traffic accident. And the authorities have already called on the residents to take precautionary measures and to pay attention to their safety. And the authorities also called on the transportation department to take precautionary measures to guard against possible traffic accident. I think the Beijing residents may welcome this snowfall because it helps to disperse the smog. But for the travelers, it might indeed cause a lot of inconvenience because the road is very slippery. And according to the Beijing railway station, today the total number of passengers flow in their station is going to hit 150 million. Is 1.5 million. And this is, this is only the passenger flow in one railway station. And according to the statistics, yesterday, a total of 440,000 people left Beijing. So you can see this is equivalent to the total population of a third-tier city in China. And a lot of passengers, in order to not miss their train, they chose to arrive at the railway station 10 hours before the departure time. And there are also a lot of crowds waiting in the railway stations. And what is different this year is that the daily travel peak is between 1 p.m. and midnight in the next morning, while in the past years, the daily travel peak is between 7 to 9 p.m. And this is because this year, a lot of long-distance trains leave Beijing in the afternoon and arrive at the destinations the next morning. But what remains the same is the enthusiasm of the travelers as the importance and significance of this traditional Chinese tradition that has been lasted for centuries.
Well, Jia, it's expected a travel rush will reach its peak in the next few days. So are transportation authorities around the country ready for this influx?
Well, I think the transportation has already, department has getting prepared for this travel rush. And to understand this question, you also have to know who the passengers are. The majority of the passengers are migrant workers, students, and also private business owners. For the students in Beijing's universities and colleges, they have already started their winter vacation. And some schools, universities started vacation early in January. So the students are the major travel force. While the migrant workers, a lot of the construction sites have already suspended operation because of the chilly weather. So migrant workers is also heading back home during this period. While private business owners can take their vacation anytime they want, and they are also joining these crowds this year. And aside from this, there are also people working in government organs, public institutions, and also private foreign-funded firms. And they will normally take their vacation from February the 9th, which is the Chinese New Year's Eve. And so authorities predict that the highest travel peak will arrive 4 days later, about in January the 6th, 7th, and the 8th.
Thank you very much indeed, our reporter Jia in downtown Beijing. As we've been talking about, with the approach of Spring Festival, China has seen a proliferation in various forms of transport on its roads as 1/6 of the country's population head for home. During the world's biggest travel rush, one particular group of travelers are making their way home by road in the southern Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region.
Perhaps the cheapest method of traveling home, the motorcycle is the transport of choice for these migrant workers. The national road in Wuzhou City is only the first leg of their one-day journey. For some, it may even take 2 days. Yet the cold weather and challenging roads haven't deterred their zest for the journey back to a long-awaited family reunion.
I'll arrive home by tomorrow afternoon. It's my daughter's first trip home. Her grandmother will be happy to see her.
And for some, it's a treasured opportunity to be with their loved ones.
I bought a computer and some clothes for my children. I see them once a year. This is the only time. And I want to get back as early as possible.
Spirits are high, yet the journey is tough.
We set out at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't feel my legs after sitting for so many hours.
The most important thing is that they get back to their families safely.
We have to be very careful on the roads because there are so many other vehicles. Safety comes first.
To make the journey smooth and safe for these travelers, the Wuzhou authorities have organized groups of volunteers to set up more than 160 rest stops next to gas stations all the way along this route. Travelers can make phone calls, get access to hot water and warm food, and get their motorcycles checked and serviced, all for free.
People get tired and stiff after being on the motorbikes for so long. This could easily lead to traffic accidents. These stops are being provided to make sure motorcyclists and drivers can take a break along the way. It helps to minimize the possibility of accidents.
According to the local transport department, more than 600,000 motorcycles will pass through Wuzhou during the Spring Festival travel peak. That means this stretch of road will turn into a motorcycling spectacle over the coming week. Wahajun, CCTV.
Sunday marks preliminary eve in China. For more on this special occasion, let's talk to our reporter Guan Yang in North China's Shenyang city. Hello, Guan Yang. Give us a sense of the atmosphere around you.
Hello, Pandang. It's only 1 week before the Spring Festival, and today, as you said, it is the date of Little Lunar New Year in the Northeastern tradition. People have bought special candy on this day, which is made of glutinous millet and sprouted wheat. And meanwhile, people are doing their shoppings for the holiday, and others are busy heading home. And because Shenyang is the transportation hub of the Northeast, reason being that all trains that are going into Jilin and Heilongjiang provinces must make a stop here. And in almost every 15 to 20 minutes, there will be trains departing to all directions and all major cities of Northeast. Plus the Harbin, Dalian high-speed line, the additional transport capacities really do ease the bottleneck of travel during the Spring Festival. And each year, the Spring Festival travel rush is always a hot topic. I suppose it's more than just the issue of whether or not we have enough tickets. It's more about the challenges faced by rural population during the country's fast urbanization. Back to you, Pandang.
Guan Yang, Shenyang is a major transport hub in northeast China. So is the local authority ready for the upcoming influx of the Spring Festival travel rush?
Yes. Well, first of all, the migrant population, the migrant workers who usually head home for family reunion once a year, the Railway Bureau has offered them group tickets 21 days ahead of travel. And this does save them a lot of hassles, because trying to purchase tickets online when you are not familiar with computer can be really frustrating. And the young generation of migrant workers seem to get around of this problem pretty well. And in general, the floating population in the Northeast are not as heavy as other regions like Guangdong, Sichuan and Henan, etc. And normally we don't see that much of travel rush during the Spring Festival as those places do. But if you are traveling from Beijing and planning to drop in any major cities of the Northeast, get your ticket well in advance is a must. That's all for now in Shenyang, and back to you, Panda.
Thank you very much indeed. Our reporter Guan Yang in northeast China's metropolitan of Shenyang. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, Lunar New Year is also celebrated, also known as Tet. There's a similar scramble there for train tickets back home for the holidays. In Ho Chi Minh City, people are lining up overnight outside Saigon railway station. Ticket sales begin at 6 a.m. in the morning, but it's still usual to see more than 300 people in the queues, even at 2 a.m. The railway company opened online bookings in December, but the website was overloaded and broke down on the very first day the services was opened, when 168,000 customers tried to access the system at the same time. Its capacity was only 1,000, so it's back to the ticket booth and the queues for the scores who failed to get their tickets online for the Tet holiday. Meanwhile, a temple fair with Chinese characteristics has been held in South Africa's Johannesburg, attracting many tourists. Activities including dragon and lion dances, acrobatics, Chinese martial arts and other cultural performances were held, as well as crafts such as artistic paper cutting and calligraphy. In addition, costumes and Chinese food were on sale. The Chinese embassy in South Africa also organized an information desk to introduce visitors to traditional Chinese culture and travel. The fair attracted nearly 10,000 people, including the locals, overseas Chinese and foreign tourists. You're watching News Hour on CCTV News. Coming up, a show of force. Iran unveils a new homemade fighter bomber jet capable of flying at low altitudes and evading radar. And French President François Hollande visits Mali to congratulate French troops on the success of the first phase of the intervention in Mali. Turning to Iran now, the country has unveiled its newest combat jet. It's a homemade fighter bomber military officials claim can evade radar. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says it has almost all the features of the world's most sophisticated fighter jets. Ian McKinnon has the story.
Iran continues to demonstrate self-reliance in the field of military technology. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has unveiled the country's newest fighter jet, the Qaher 313. He says the plane is a mark of Iran's scientific progress and has been made for defensive purposes only.
The development of Iran's military power is not aimed at violating other nations' rights. It is not for expansionist policies, rather it is for deterrence and defensive purposes. It is a manifestation of Iran's ingenuity and talent to defend and protect itself with the least possible costs and in the most humanistic way.
Iran's defense minister Ahmed Vahidi describes it as an important achievement in the country's development of fighter jets.
Qaher 313 is an important achievement in the category of fighter jets. It's a fighter jet which has been fully designed and built indigenously by engineers and experts in the Defense Ministry's Aerospace Industries Department.
Vahidi claims the plane is capable of evading radar.
This fighter has unique characteristics, including its form, that is almost unique in the world. It also has the capability to fly at very low altitudes and evade radar. This ability to fly at very low altitudes gives it impressive maneuvering power. Other capabilities include carrying weapons inside its body and landing and taking off from very short runways.
Pictures released by the official Islamic Republic news agency show the Qaher as a single-seater jet. It is described as a fighter bomber that can combat other aircraft and ground targets. Ian McKinnell, CCTV.
Recently, Iran has been showing its military muscle, from holding drills, launching rockets, to unveiling its newest combat jet. Su Yuting takes a closer look.
Iran claimed it captured a Scan Eagle U.S. drone over the Persian Gulf last December. A few days later, it announced its military was producing the same model it had captured. It's not the first time Iran has claimed to have captured U.S. drone. In 2011, Iran also captured one of the most sophisticated drones, an RQ-170 Sentinel, over the eastern part of the country. On December the 28th, Iran displayed its defensive powers by launching a 6-day military drill. The Valayat 91 naval exercise aimed to show Iran's capabilities in defending the country's borders and Navy's ability to provide security at sea, in particular in the Strait of Hormuz, the Sea of Oman, and northern Indian Ocean. On January the 1st, Iran's Navy said it has successfully launched long and short-range missiles during its naval maneuvers off its southern coast. Iran's Navy said the new ground-to-ground missile can destroy ships. A day later, Iran unveiled a new attack helicopter named Storm 2. Iran's defense ministry says the new aircraft is equipped with the country's latest indigenous achievements in electronics, optics, laser, and armament capabilities. On January the 27th, Iran inaugurated mass production of a new domestically manufactured missile system. The Iranian Defense Ministry said the missile system can engage multiple targets and destroy them quickly and is capable of detecting targets automatically. On January the 28th, Iran said it had reached a milestone goal in its quest to send human astronauts into space by successfully launching a monkey into orbit and returning it safely to the Earth. Su Yuting, CCTV.
U.S. Vice President Joe Biden says his country is preparing to meet Iranian leaders to discuss Tehran's nuclear program. He was speaking at the annual International Security Conference in Munich. The announcement comes amid a standoff of Iran's nuclear ambitions. Emma Kino has the story.
Joe Biden says the United States is ready to hold direct talks with Iran in an attempt to settle the dispute over the country's nuclear program. Biden stresses that there is still time for diplomacy to succeed, but insists that the ball is in Iran's court to show it is serious about negotiating.
We would be prepared to meet bilaterally with the Iranian leadership. We would not make it a secret that we were doing that. We would let our partners know if that occasion presented itself. That offer stands, but it must be real and tangible. And there has to be an agenda that they're prepared to speak to. We are not just prepared to do it for the exercise.
The announcement comes amid a standoff over Iran's nuclear ambitions. So far, negotiations with Iran have been overseen by European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton. But they have made little progress. Ashton has asked Iran to hold a new round of talks later this month. On Friday, she called on Tehran to abandon plans to install advanced centrifuges that would dramatically increase its pace of enriching uranium. Many believe no deal is possible without a thaw in US-Iranian relations, requiring direct talks that address a number of sources of mutual mistrust and hostility. In the past, Iran has tended to avoid direct public talks with the United States, but some suggest Tehran may welcome an opportunity to end its isolation. Ian McKinnell, CCTV.
Still in Munich, Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Song Tao says emerging economies have contributed significantly to the stability and development of the world and will continue to take a more active part in international affairs. Song Tao was in a panel discussion at the International Security Conference, an annual gathering of world diplomats and experts in the southern city of Germany. He said figures show that emerging economies have contributed to over 50% of global growth over the past 5 years. He told the conference that China will continue the policy of reform and opening up while remaining committed to peace and development and seeking international cooperation.
Traditionally, the Munich Security Conference focuses on Europe and America, but in the past 2 years, China has been one of the hot topics. I believe emerging economies, including China, are positive energy for the development of the world. In the future, they will take a more active part in international affairs to promote international cooperation and tackle global challenges.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says his government will go ahead with a controversial plan to relocate a key U.S. Marine base within Japan's Okinawa prefecture. The confirmation came during a visit by the Prime Minister to Okinawa on Saturday, but there's continued public opposition to the plan, especially from local residents. Matt Stuttard has more.
In his first visit to Okinawa since being re-elected in December, Shinzo Abe met with Okinawa Governor Hirokazu Nakayama. He confirmed that the central government will relocate the Futenma U.S. airbase within the prefecture. The base is currently located in a crowded residential district in Ginowan. Under the plan, it will move to the less populated coastal region of Henoko. But Governor Nakayama reminded the Prime Minister that local opposition to the move remains strong. He urged the central government to move the base as soon as possible, and preferably out of Okinawa altogether. Abe offered consolation, saying his government is considering reductions in the overall U.S. Army presence. But it looks like this move will now definitely go ahead, despite the continued opposition. Before his meeting with Nakayama, Abe visited a Japanese self-defense force base in Naha. He called on members of the country's self-defense forces to strengthen protection of Japan's territory, territorial waters and airspace. The visit to Okinawa and the pledge to press ahead with the transfer of the US base is being seen as a precursor to Abe's visit to the US in a few weeks' time, for talks with US President Barack Obama. Matt Stuttard, CCTV.
The DPRK has criticized the U.S. for employing double standards on its space program and South Korea's rocket launch. The accusation comes 3 days after South Korea successfully launched its first rocket, putting a satellite into orbit. An unidentified DPRK Foreign Ministry spokesman says it's the independent and legitimate right of the DPRK to launch satellites. He also warns of the toughest retaliation against the United States. Meanwhile, the DPRK Rodong Sinma newspaper also says its country has been treated unequally after the UN Security Council approved the sanctions for the country's satellite launch in December. However, the U.S. State Department says there was no basis for comparing the rocket programs of the DPRK and South Korea, given that South Korea has developed its technology responsibly. Turning to the Syrian crisis now, as clashes continue inside Syria, the head of the Syria National Coalition has reiterated calls for talks with representatives of the government. His remarks came during a late-night panel talk attended by UN Arab League envoy Lakhdar Brahimi at the Munich Security Conference. It came a day ahead of their meeting with US Vice President Joe Biden. Bi Jianlu has the story.
The Syrian opposition is still searching for a political solution. The head of the main opposition coalition has repeated previous statements that he is ready to talk with Assad's government, but with conditions such as the release of detainees and renewed documents of Syrians abroad. The Syrian government says the opposition's willingness to find a political solution is a sign of progress, but that their demands cannot be met.
The acceptance of the political solution is progress, but the concepts of the political solution are the most important part. We accept the dialogue, not the negotiation, because there's a big difference between the two terms.
The broad-based opposition has for long rejected any dialogue with the government until President Assad himself steps down. But the latest statement doesn't stipulate that Assad has to go as a prelude to talks. The head of the opposition says talks would be held with Syrian officials whose hands were not stained with Syrian blood. Bi Jianlu, CCTV.
Israeli President Shimon Peres has formally nominated incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to form a new coalition government. It follows last week's general election, which Netanyahu's party won, but without a majority. Netanyahu will have 28 days to form a coalition. He says the top priority of his next government would be to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran.
The paramount task of the government that I will form will be to stop Iran from arming itself with nuclear weapons. We will also have to deal with other deadly weaponry that is being amassed around us and threatens our cities and citizens.
His comment is seen as a possible hint to Syria's weapons arsenal after reports last week that Israeli jets bombed a convoy near the Lebanese border. Netanyahu also mentions economic challenges facing the next government, as well as domestic issues such as the need for an equal share of the burden, compulsory military or civilian service for sectors who do not serve in the army. He also called for the formation of a national unity government. Moving on to Egypt now, the country's Prime Minister Hasham Kondil has condemned recent attacks by protesters on state property and said no government can effectively govern in the current climate. He has urged all political forces to call on their supporters to withdraw from the streets. He also says the legitimate demands should be expressed through legitimate channels.
I call on the people to look at the coming elections and prepare for them so they get the change they want. But the change through violence is rejected, and the Egyptian people do not allow it. We are working as a government to stop this rioting and are thwarting any attempts to attack government buildings or people.
In his statement, Kondil also says the street violence and political unrest is threatening the country's already ailing economy. His comments come a day after protesters clashed with security forces in central Cairo's Tahrir Square and outside the presidential palace. One person has been killed and dozens injured in Friday's violence outside the presidential palace. Following a day of intense anti-government protests and clashes with security forces, the streets of Cairo are now quiet. Many Egyptians are expressing their disappointment and dissatisfaction of the government they elected.
Mr. President, you have to consider the demands of the people. They should be met. You should not listen to the advice of your assistants, because they are providing you with erroneous information. You should get down into the streets to look after the people's demands, because we are in a bad situation. We cannot earn money, shops are closed, and there are no businesses. Life has stopped. So please meet the people's demands.
Legitimacy is not only to be acquired, legitimacy is tender. As we gave you our vote, you should meet our demands. But you took my vote and you have given me nothing yet. All you have given me is poverty, hunger, and humiliation. That is what we got from you.
French President François Hollande paid a visit to Mali to congratulate French troops on successfully rooting out militants. His Saturday's visit marks the end of a 3-week first phase of the French operation in Mali. The next phase is still an unknown. Stephanie Fried reports.
The markings of success. Mali's top military officers and political officials honoring the arrival of France's president. François Hollande touched down at this airbase on Saturday to meet counterparts and show support for French troops sent into Mali to root out Islamist extremists. The operation, an air campaign with virtually no French casualties, has been successful to now.
With the presence of military forces here on the ground, I'm sure peace will return. I am confident.
As the president strolled the red carpet with Mali interim president Dioncounda Traoré and pressed flesh, questions were bubbling in the background. Namely, what will come next in France's Mali campaign, and how will the government ensure militants don't return or embark on a guerrilla warfare campaign? Also of concern is suspected retribution killings carried out by local military members.
French President Hollande's touchdown here was very brief, but it was highly symbolic. And as he now gets ready to take off and to travel to Timbuktu, another former Islamist stronghold, the question people are asking, what's the next phase in the French operation here in Mali? Stephanie Fried, CCTV, Mopti.
You're watching News Hour on CCTV News. Still to come. Paying homage, Cambodians gather in the capital Phnom Penh ahead of the cremation of the late King Norodom Sihanouk. And rescue efforts end in China's Henan province following a major expressway bridge collapse caused by an explosion on a truck laden with illegal fireworks. Sunday is the third day of late Cambodian former King Norodom Sihanouk's funeral. Eminent monks are holding 2 days of prayers for the former king, whose body will be kept for another day in the royal palace before it's cremated on Monday. Thousands of mourners from all over Cambodia have gathered in Phnom Penh to pay their last respects to their former king. For more on this, let's cross live to our correspondent Andy Saputra in Phnom Penh. Hello, Andy. What's the latest you've got?
Hello. Yes, that's right. Right now there is still a Buddhism ceremony that's going on. It's been going on from the morning session and the night session every day ever since the royal body has been transferred from the royal palace to the Meru field, where he will be the former King Norodom Sihanouk would be laid to rest and would be cremated on Monday here. The Buddhism ceremony is very solemn. They will continue to do that today and tomorrow as well. And then by after midday here, they will open up the gates to let Cambodians come in and to pay their final respects to their king.
So Andy, and on the third day of the funeral procession, what activities are being held?
Yes, it's still going on. There's a big ceremony is expected later on this afternoon, where the king, the current King Sihamoni, his son, will come and pay their respect. The king has been coming to pay his respects since yesterday, and it will continue on till today and tomorrow as well, where the big ceremony will happen, where all the Buddhist monks will gather here and chant and pray for the souls of their beloved king here. And we are expecting many Cambodians from across the country are still flocking to the capital to pay their final respects.
For 65-year-old Prakse, walking is painful. His right leg has been crippled since 1973. But today, accompanied by his 10-year-old granddaughter, he traveled over 100 kilometers from his hometown Kampong Chai to the capital Phnom Penh for one important homage.
I came here for my king. I want to see him one last time.
His king, King Norodom Sihanouk, is on his final journey. After he succumbed to a heart attack late last year, the king's body is laid in state here, giving his people a chance to pay their final respects. Cambodians came from all over the country to pray for the soul of Cambodia's dearest son. The former king is their father of independence and revered as the king who led them into the golden years of Cambodia. And for Parkse and many grieving Cambodians here, they are offering what they can as a sign of deep respect.
I love my king more than I love my life. I hope his soul will smile when he sees all his people that love him here.
Yes, as you can hear that the people here who came from all over the country certainly really love their king, the king that they say is the most connected to their people, to his people here. We heard stories from people who comes here who met the king directly, because the king regularly goes out to the countryside, gives out food and clothes for his people, and this is why his legacy will live on here in Cambodia.
Thank you very much indeed, our correspondent Andy Saputra in Phnom Penh. You're watching News Hour on CCTV News. Stay with us. Turning to the very latest on the expressway bridge collapse in central China's Henan province, search and rescue efforts ended on Saturday night. The identities of the 10 dead have been confirmed. Of the 11 injured and hospitalized, one is still in a critical condition. Details about the 8 vehicles that fell down the bridge have also been confirmed. The collapse occurred at around 9 a.m. Friday on a viaduct in Mianchi County, about 200 kilometers west of the provincial capital, Zhengzhou. Local authorities have shut down the company that made fireworks and detained 4 company officials.
The fireworks were made illegally by Shanxi Pucheng Hongsheng Fireworks Manufacturing Company Limited and hidden in disguised packaging. It then used a haulier unlicensed to handle hazardous commodities.
Also, an investigation shows the main cause for the collapse of the expressway is the explosion of a truck loaded with fireworks. But how did the fireworks have so much force they could destroy a bridge? Sinan has more.
The investigation shows the fireworks were produced and are being transported illegally. In addition, the truck was overloaded. Wang Baixing, a renowned bomb disposal expert, has confirmed the investigation results and given a detailed explanation. Wang says the fireworks and the firecrackers on the truck contained 40 to 60 times more explosive than normal fireworks. The truck was carrying more than 250 fireworks and 350 firecrackers, overloading it. Therefore, the power of the blast was the same as the explosives being detonated.
This amount of fireworks and firecrackers caused the blast equivalent to 1 ton of explosive.
Wang also said the explosion happened on a key part of the viaduct.
This expressway is a simple beam bridge. It means if you blow up the upper part of the bridge and pull down one of its columns, the bridge will collapse.
Wang also added if the blast had happened somewhere else, there would not have been as many casualties. Many people died from the fall rather than the explosion. Snap, CCTV.
You're watching News Hour on CCTV News. More to come. Argentina announces a new method of measuring inflation after the IMF censures the country of the quality of its economic data. And we'll take you to New Orleans, which hosts the Super Bowl on Sunday for the first time since Hurricane Katrina hit the region 8 years ago. Argentina says it will start using a new method of measuring inflation after the International Monetary Fund censured the country of the quality of its economic data. Argentina's economy minister says the new method will come into use in the final quarter of this year. The country's inflation index lost credibility in 2007 after the government instituted a new methodology. The IMF has been urging the country for years to fix its consumer price index, but has seen insufficient progress. IMF issued a declaration of censure on Friday, the first since it was founded. Failure to implement the actions called for in the declaration may lead to Argentina's loss of access to IMF funding and voting rights. Well, Jonas joins us now with the latest in sports. Good afternoon, Jonas.
Afternoon, Pan Doug. Thank you very much. We do begin this afternoon with the NBA and the LA Lakers continuing march towards the postseason. The team struggled so badly at the start of the year, but have improved their play of late. They had won 3 of 4 games, and head coach Mike D'Antoni tinkered with their starting lineups. They were taking on Minnesota. Pau Gasol back in the starting 5, replacing Dwight Howard at center. Kobe and the Lakers had lost 8 straight road games, but the Lake Show would start strong. Kobe showing off his game as a distributor. He's going to find Meta World Peace not once, but twice in the second time around. Will be good. That triple put in LA up by 2 touchdowns. Kobe had 8 assists, 17 points, and 12 boards on the night. Then the Black Mamba going to play a little 2-man game with Pau Gasol. The duo hooking up for a couple easy looks. Gasol knocking down that one from range. He had 22 points and 12 rebounds in his return as a starter, and the Lakers up by 16 at that point. But Mini would claw back. They cut the deficit to 4. Alexei Shved knocking down the tray. He had 18 on the night for the T-Pups, but LA again going back down low to Pau Gasol, and he'll throw it down. That would be all they would need. They would snap their road losing skid. The Lakers took this one at 111-100. Other action on the night. Rudy Gay had 20 points in his debut for Toronto, leading the Raptors past the Clippers. David West had 30 to lead Indiana over Miami. Boston picked up an easy win over Orlando. New York down Milwaukee. The Knicks extend their winning streak to 4 games. Brooklyn edged Chicago, and Philly was a winner over Sacramento. Elsewhere, Brandon Knight had 20 points and 10 dimes. Detroit knocked off Cleveland. Tayshaun Prince had 14 in his Memphis debut. The Grizzlies knocked off Washington. Denver picked up a 6th straight win. They clubbed New Orleans, and Utah and Dallas also winners on the night. We turn to the ice now, where after being the model of consistency for the last 2 decades, many people were predicting the demise of the Detroit Red Wings. The squad has been in this playoffs for 21 straight years, but some experts believe that could be the year that streak ends, especially after they lost their captain and once-in-a-generation defenseman Nick Lidstrom to retirement. But this team, now led by new captain Henrik Zetterberg, and he would have a career day against the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis won the first meeting between the teams this year, 6-0 for St. Louis. Picked things up midway through the first. Detroit up 1. Zetterberg going to get behind the defense. He'll go backhand and beat Yaroslav Halak through the wickets, the second of the game, making it 2-0. St. Louis would fight back to even things up in the second and go ahead on the power play. Patrick Berglund getting it done in the dirty area. He'll get the rebound to go there. But the Detroit Red Wings would bounce back again on the power play in the third. Pavel Datsyuk, he's going to get it to go. The Wings up 4-3 at that point. Zetterberg had a hand in that one. 4 points already for the captain. Then the Detroit leader would outmuscle TJ Oshie late. He's going to get to the loose puck there and tuck it home. He had 5 points on the night. That's his third of the night. The Wings take this one 5-3. In other action from Friday evening, Washington edged Philly 3-2. Dan Ellis made 33 saves as Carolina blanked Ottawa. Corey Conacher had 2 goals and an assist to lead Tampa Bay past Winnipeg 8-3. Dallas got past Phoenix in a shootout. The Vancouver Canucks handed the Chicago Blackhawks their second straight shootout loss, while Anaheim skated past Minnesota 3-1. There are just under 24 hours now until the Baltimore Ravens meet the San Francisco Giants in the Super Bowl, which will, of course, crown the football champions of the NFL. The 47th championship will be held in New Orleans, and it's the first time the city has hosted a game this big since Hurricane Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast region almost 8 years ago. Our Sean Calebs is in New Orleans, and he has more.
They came for a party, Baltimore and San Francisco fans alike. And Chef Richard Hughes says that's exactly what they're getting.
A lot of people have the misconception, well, maybe we haven't recovered from Katrina, but I mean, this is going to really show that we're back 100%.
But any way you slice it, New Orleans remains a tale of 2 cities, one thriving and one like this. Homes and neighborhoods still bearing the scars of a killer hurricane that left its mark along the Gulf Coast back in August of 2005.
There are 2 New Orleans. It's a fantastic place to do business. It's a great place to vacation, to bring the family. And for the people whose homes are complete, it's a great place to live. Unfortunately, we have 6,000 families who own homes that they can't afford to rebuild.
For 6.5 years, Zach Rosenberg has been one of the driving forces behind the St. Bernard Project. The charitable organization has rebuilt more than 500 homes. Among the project's major financial supporters, the man under this hat, billionaire philanthropist John Paul DeJoria, founder of John Paul Mitchell Hair Products and Patron Tequila.
We have this opportunity to do something for the St. Bernard Project so we can actually participate. All my family and friends that are here all believe the same thing. Success unshared is failure.
The NFL is capitalizing on this opportunity for community support. 800 volunteers working in areas like Pontchartrain Park this Super Bowl weekend. Mayor Mitch Landrieu says improved playgrounds could make a difference and keep some kids from going bad.
Crime continues to be a problem all over America. You know, the president's been addressing those issues as Congress have. We're going to keep working really hard on that because if you're not safe, I mean, you can't be free. That's really the end of the game right there.
The city is looking at this as an important moment in time. It's a chance to make huge investments in healthcare, education, and roads. The kind of improvements that wouldn't be possible if the big game didn't come to New Orleans. And this infrastructure will remain here long after the Super Bowl folds its tent and moves on. Sean Calebs, CCTV in New Orleans.
And while you can't talk Super Bowl without talking about the ads on the big day, and at a cost of about $4 million for 30 seconds, the ads are already building buzz, and advertisers also hoping to use social media to promote their products well after the game is over. We get more now from our friends at Reuters.
Will it be funny man Tracy Morgan poking fun at lip syncing? Or sexy supermodel Kate Upton at the car wash? Or will it be adorable babies flying through the sky? This year's Super Bowl ad game will be all about who gets the buzz, and especially the tweets, on the second screen.
You'll know immediately if your ad has any sort of success by whether or not it's trending on Twitter. Twitter is a boon for advertisers in the respect that they can see in real time if that ad is working, what people are saying, and of course Twitter's top trending lists right to the right on the homepage of Twitter show you what's working and what's not.
Budweiser launched a Twitter feed solely to ask fans to name the baby Clydesdale who stars in its Super Bowl ad. A lot of companies leverage social media well before the big day, not just releasing ads but promoting them to consumers. Frito-Lay is back with its Crash the Super Bowl competition. Fans make the ads and then vote. And if the ad does well enough, the winner could take home $1 million.
First, you get people hooked in. You get people to have skin in the game because they're making ads. Then you get people to have skin in the games because they're voting. Then you see what happens at the Super Bowl, and then you want to watch the drama after the Super Bowl to say, who's talking about whom? That's a 6-month engagement plan. That's multiple screen engagement plan.
It's a proven strategy for Volkswagen, which pre-released this ad called Get Happy. Its Star Wars-themed ad had astronomical success a couple of years ago.
That built great awareness in advance of the game, even to the extent where the Force, the Mini Vader ad that we showed that year, had had almost 15 million views by the time the game actually kicked off.
And even though last year's game was the most watched U.S. telecast of all time, that extra mileage is crucial. 30-second spots are going for as much as $4 million this year.
Graeme Smith celebrated his 100th test as an international captain, but day one of the first test between South Africa and Pakistan in Johannesburg would belong to the tourists after they bowled their hosts out. Now, Friday was also Smith's 32nd birthday, but the partying done by Pakistan. After a cautious start, South Africa would edge their way to 46, but then a double strike would end up pegging them back. A quick-fire 79-run stand for the third wicket by Jacques Kallis, and Hashim Amla would steady the innings, but then the heavyweight duo would be removed by a couple excellent catches, but they would do a little damage before they were removed. Then Kallis reached his 58th test half-century before he was snapped up by Asad Shafiq in the deep on 50, while Amla was then taken in the gully by Azhar Ali off Yunus Khan for 37. Dean Elgar, his confidence high after a maiden test century last month against New Zealand, then launched a counterattack that included this massive six of Saeed Ajmal. But soon after, the South African wickets would begin to fall. Vernon Philander was then run out, and then Moran Morkel would be lost for a duck. He would become Mohamed Hafiz's fourth victim, and South Africa finished the day 253 all out. The visitors then had a testing 2-over spell before the end of play. They closed on 6 without loss. Hafiz and debutant Nasir Jamshed were at the crease. That'll do it for us here on Sports Scene. For the News Hour, full edition of the show coming your way 3:30 p.m. Beijing time. But for now, back to you, Panda.
Thank you very much, Jonas. Indeed, on to other news. More than 100 art pieces from the New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art are on display at China's National Museum in Beijing. This is the very first time the Met's collection has ever been showcased in China. The show focuses on depictions of nature by artists in Europe and America, including Vincent van Gogh and Claude Monet.
The exhibition, titled Earth, Sea and Sky, Nature in Western Art, highlights the relationship between nature and people through a wide variety of media, including paintings, tapestry, silverware, ceramics and bronze. The artworks on display date from 3000 BC to modern times and feature masters such as Van Gogh, Monet and Turner, as well as anonymous artists of ancient and medieval eras.
It's the first time for some of the works to be showcased outside the Met. With the breadth and quality of the museum's collections, the exhibition runs through the entire evolution of Western artistic achievements.
The Met's director Thomas Campbell says the exhibition not only acquaints the Chinese public with the masterpieces, but also exposes them to artistic traditions they may be less familiar with.
It shows the great imagination and creativity with which Western artists have engaged with the subject of nature and man in nature and animals in nature. It's a rich exploration of this theme, and I think there will be many things that the Chinese audience will enjoy, and they'll see many similarities and many differences to the Chinese tradition of art.
The exhibition also offers a better viewing experience by installing a mobile scanner code on the illustration board of every exhibit. The code connects to a more detailed instruction to the works. The exhibition runs until 9th of May. Liu Wenwen, CCTV.
That's it for this edition of News Hour on CCTV News. I'm Pan Dong in Beijing. Bye-bye.
We set out at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't feel my legs after sitting for so many hours.
The most important thing is that they get back to their families safely.
We have to be very careful on the roads because there are so many other vehicles. Safety comes first.
To make the journey smooth and safe for these travelers, the Wuzhou authorities have organized groups of volunteers to set up more than 160 rest stops next to gas stations all the way along this route. Travelers can make phone calls, get access to hot water and warm food, and get their motorcycles checked and serviced, all for free.
People get tired and stiff after being on the motorbikes for so long. This could easily lead to traffic accidents. These stops are being provided to make sure motorcyclists and drivers can take a break along the way. It helps to minimize the possibility of accidents.
According to the local transport department, more than 600,000 motorcycles will pass through Wuzhou during the Spring Festival travel peak. That means this stretch of road will turn into a motorcycling spectacle over the coming week. Wahajun, CCTV.
Sunday marks preliminary eve in China. For more on this special occasion, let's talk to our reporter Guan Yang in North China's Shenyang city. Hello, Guan Yang. Give us a sense of the atmosphere around you.
Hello, Pandang. It's only 1 week before the Spring Festival, and today, as you said, it is the date of Little Lunar New Year in the Northeastern tradition. People have bought special candy on this day, which is made of glutinous.
Usher in the new year, families across China celebrate a preliminary Eve through a host of cooking and cleaning traditions. A show of force, Iran unveils a new homemade fighter bomber jet capable of flying at low altitudes and evading radar. Paying homage, Cambodians gather in the capital Phnom Penh ahead of the cremation of the late King Norodom Sihanouk. And we take you to New Orleans, which hosts the Super Bowl on Sunday for the first time since Hurricane Katrina hit the region 8 years ago. Hello there, welcome to News Hour on CCTV News. Live from Beijing, I'm Pandong. Sunday is the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month, which Chinese call Xiaonian or preliminary eve. On this day, people used to offer sacrifices to the kitchen god. Now, most families make delicious food to enjoy. In some parts of China, people clean inside and outside their homes, as well as their clothes. People also maintain a tradition of cutting their hair on this day. After this eve, people begin preparing for the Chinese New Year. This is called seeing the New Year in. They begin decorating their newly cleaned homes to create an atmosphere of festivity. Chinese
government organs, public institutions, and also private foreign-funded firms. And they will normally take their vacation from February the 9th, which is the Chinese New Year's Eve. And so authorities predict that the highest travel peak will arrive 4 days later, about in January the 6th, 7th, and the 8th.
Thank you very much indeed, our reporter Jia in downtown Beijing. As we've been talking about, with the approach of Spring Festival, China has seen a proliferation in various forms of transport on its roads, as 1/6 of the country's population head for home. During the world's biggest travel rush, one particular group of travelers are making their way home by road in the southern Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region.
Perhaps the cheapest method of traveling home, the motorcycle is the transport of choice for these migrant workers. The national road in Wuzhou City is only the first leg of their one-day journey. For some, it may even take 2 days. Yet the cold weather and challenging roads haven't deterred their zest for the journey back to a long-awaited family reunion.
I'll arrive home by tomorrow afternoon. It's my daughter's first trip home. Her grandmother will be happy to see her.
And for some, it's a treasured opportunity to be with their loved ones.
I bought a computer and some clothes for my children. I see them once a year. This is the only time, and I want to get back as early as possible.
Spirits are high, yet the journey is tough.
There are also a lot of crowds waiting in the railway stations. And what is different this year is that the daily travel peak is between 1 p.m. and midnight in the next morning, while in the past years, the daily travel peak is between 7 to 9 p.m. And this is because this year a lot of long-distance trains leave Beijing in the afternoon and arrive at the destinations the next morning. But what remains the same is the enthusiasm of the travelers as the importance and significance of this traditional Chinese tradition that has been lasted for centuries.
Well, Nijia, it's expected a travel rush will reach its peak in the next few days. So are transportation authorities around the country ready for this influx?
Well, I think the transportation has already department has getting prepared for this travel rush. And to understand this question, you also have to know who the passengers are. The majority of the passengers are migrant workers, students, and also private business owners. For the students in Beijing's universities and colleges, they have already started their winter vacation, and some schools, universities started vacation early in January. So the students are the major travel force. While the migrant workers, a lot of the construction sites have already suspended operation because of the chilly weather. So migrant workers is also heading back home during this period. While private business owners can take their vacation anytime they want, and they are also joining these crowds this year. And aside from this, there are also people working in
characteristics or Chinese gods are hung on doors before everybody goes out to buy things for the new year. Meanwhile, people across China are busy heading home for the Spring Festival. For more on the travel rush, let's cross live to our correspondent Nijia in Beijing. Hello, Nijia, tell us your exact location. And we know that snow has returned to Beijing Sunday morning. Is it having any effect on people's travel plans?
Well, indeed, today there is heavy snow in Beijing, but so far there's no report of traffic accident. And the authorities have already called on the residents to take precautionary measures and to pay attention to their safety. And the authorities also called on the transportation department to take precautionary measures to guard against possible traffic accident. I think the Beijing residents may welcome this snowfall because it helps to disperse the smog. But for the travelers, it might indeed cause a lot of inconvenience because the road is very slippery. And according to Beijing Railway Station, today the total number of passengers flow in their station is going to hit 150 million. Is 1.5 million, and this is this is only the passenger flow in one railway station. And according to the statistics, yesterday a total of 440,000 people left Beijing. So you can see this is equivalent to the total population of a third-tier city in China. And a lot of passengers, in order to not miss their train, they chose to arrive at the railway station 10 hours before the departure time. And